Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be discussing a very interesting topic. It's something that relates to every service that we take and use every single day. It's about applications. And we have here with us the experts. So the panel is about Superapp versus Everything Bank. And to start this discussion, I would love for you, Jaish, to first introduce to us and just simplify the concept of Everything Bank and how does it compare to Superapps?
Yeah, thank you for having us. Look, I think an everyday bank is supposed to help you, give you the confidence to manage your money and grow it. Yeah, that is the objective. You have three aspects: your money, money you want to borrow, and wealth you want to grow. Those are the three things. We help you manage and do that. I think what the Super app helps you do is live your life with some of that money. Yeah, your Kareem ride. So when you're stuck in traffic, yeah, getting the food delivered. That is what it helps you do. Yeah. So I think two great services to help you manage your money better and use your money better.
And I think this is something all of us use. Here, let's take a quick survey. So by show of hands, how many of you depend fully on applications, your bank's applications, applications like Kareem, other applications that use fintech? Everybody in the room. And I mean, I cannot remember the last time I went to the branch to do any transaction. I do everything online. And now that Kareem is also offering remittances,
yes.
And this service is, of course, game-changing for Kareem. So let us, if you can just give us a brief about this, and why did you start this line of business?
Yeah. No, great question. So Kareem has been on a journey over the past, it's now 12 years. It started as ride-hailing. At some point, we're like, all right, we're going to be a super app. Started investing in food, grocery, growing that. And in the back of our minds, there was always this element of fintech and financial services being a core service and product that customers will need, and that will keep them coming back and engaging in the app. Now, Kareem Pay started as something very, very different, right? If you kind of look at the early strategies, remittances was not on the cards. But it was one of those where at some point we were looking at it, and if you think of Kareem, you have our captains, you have our customers as well, right? And we saw that for our captains who kind of depend on Kareem as a source of income, they need to send money home, right? So we started there, and we built that service initially for the captains, saw that going really, really well. And we're like, all right, if this works, this is actually also quite relevant to customers. And we started it, and we iterated, and we saw what was there. And what we found is people need to send money home, like no matter how you look at it, particularly in a densely expat-heavy market like the UAE. It's the second largest market globally.
And I think the demographics as well are supportive because it's really young demographics.
It is young professionals, right, who come here to make a living, build a life, but still often want to support family home, make investments abroad, etc. And we kind of just found that people found the convenience of, they already have their card on file with Kareem, they already trust the brand, and it's been going really, really well.
So this is amazing, but to what extent do you think, Jaish, it's easy for traditional banks to integrate digital options and to take this consumer and client experience up to the next level? To what extent is it easy?
So I think the challenge. I think building digital apps, everybody can do. I don't think that's the challenge. I think organizing a company so that the core focus you have is making sure you give your customer great experience, great knowledge, transparency. I think that is a challenge. I think it's less a technology problem, more a people and an organizational problem. I give you an example. At Vio, everything we do is focused on how does the customer end up being better than with us.
The added value to the customer.
Added value to making it simple, so that they can understand what they do. I think banks globally have done a good job, of convincing you can't manage your money. We want to give you the confidence back. You're smart enough, you can manage the money. We'll keep it super simple for you. You make the decisions, So I think the challenge is not building the technology, it's building this mindset and organizing yourself around this idea. At Vio, we want to make money when our customers make money, not make money when customers make mistakes, So it's a whole different approach, and I think that's the challenge.
And what does that mean to Kareem? Yes, Muhammad,
Yeah,
I would love to
just
hear.
after that, and obviously I'm a Wio customer. I love the product, but there's a reason even what we do in Kareem and us entering into financial services and doing well works. It's because to Jayesh's point, the way you're set up and the DNA of the people and how they come to solve the problem, you're starting from a very, very different place compared to a traditional bank, right? Traditional bank, in a sense, will have their existing processes, and then they're trying to take that existing process, put it in a digital experience, in a sense, right? Versus when you're really building from the ground up, everything is structured around how do you serve the customer from this new kind of channel or interface that they're going with.
But let me ask you this. To what extent do you think that the requirements and demand of consumers and customers have changed over the past years, and especially following COVID? Because this is something we keep hearing about in all different type of industries, and specifically for financial services, whether it's on applications, whether it's in fintech, or just traditional banks, they keep telling us that what customers wanted before COVID is quite different from what they are demanding now. So to what extent do you feel this?
Yeah, I think a few things have happened. One, inflation has happened. Things are done more expensive than you're used to, so you need to manage money better. Two, I think consumers, I think the last panel talked about content. There's a lot more content. And because we were locked down in COVID, we started consuming more digital content. So customers are smarter. They're more educated, yeah? And so you have a more educated customer base. You have more content, yeah, that is being generated. You have more pressure on income coming in. And I think customers want to make smarter decisions. Yeah. I think the second big thing that happened is there's been a tech boom, yeah? So Kareem started Kareem Pay, yeah? Wio emerged out of COVID. Now you have these digital platforms which give you great experience, transparency, value, and there is an alternative to the only thing you got, yeah? And so I think consumers are embracing all this, and that's the big change in behavior, yeah? If you don't serve me right, I will find a platform that serves me right.
And I think the other element of this is customer expectations about what they want on their fingertips is just very, very different post-COVID, right? It was already, you could see the markings on this over the past decade, but I think COVID just completely accelerated this. I think there is an element of I want something, I want to do it now, I want that piece of share, and then I want to move on to the next thing that I want to do. So that element of convenience on demand always being there for the customer just completely changes how their set of expectations and how you need to serve them.
I remember when I first started to do more services and do more transactions on digital platforms, I was worried about my privacy, about data privacy. To what extent is this me using digital apps may allow my phone or my laptop to be hacked? So how do you integrate the element of privacy protection and data protection in your services? Yeah. Jayesh, please.
So I think, look, this is a super important topic, yeah? We are regulated by the central bank, and they have a very rigorous framework of data protection, and I think they come up with new practices and policies to continue to enhance that, which I think is great for the consumer, yeah? So I think we have to thank the regulator for making sure this is taken care of. As an organization, we follow that, and we make sure our consumers know exactly where their data is going to go. Yeah? If we're going to ask for your location, we're going to let you know, hey, we are going to ask you for a location. We're not going to ask you questions for things that we are not going to consume, but a third party might be able to use. Yeah? So I think there's better governed frameworks, yeah? For regulated industry like ours. I think our regulator does a fantastic job of it. But I think the challenge arises where regulations are not there, yeah? And when you just download a random app and start doing stuff. But I think in the regulated industry, the regulator's done a fabulous job.
How do you integrate privacy and data protection?
So I think there are a couple of things. There's obviously what you do to protect the customer, which is incredibly important, and that means having rigorous cybersecurity frameworks within the company, people who are dedicated to closing any potential breaches and gaps and making sure that the data is not compromised, right? There is your ethical standing, I have to say, as a company, right? And what you choose to do with the data. And you know this. The reality is while there are consumers who are super conscious about their privacy, some consumers will just go through terms and conditions, and that's part of the digital age, right? I'll just check a box and go through. I won't even read through it.
I've never read them. Never.
So
it's just
that's
written in a, like, how many of you have read the terms and conditions when using digital apps? Okay, we have a couple of hands. Good for you. I've never done it.
But very rare, right? And so there the onus becomes on the company itself and what it stands for, because the reality is if you're building a company for the long term, the thing that you can't mess up is customer trust, right? And even if you can get away with it, at some point you will be found out, and it's a very, very long road to recover from that. And the second aspect is obviously complying with regulations around this, which are meant to provide, kind of a more objective view of this. But I think for the customer, ultimately it is about not just making sure you're worthy of the trust, but you also need to build the perception of trust. And I think this is why, particularly in the space of fintech, it's really difficult for a company coming out of nowhere, startup, to just come in and say, oh, I'm just going to start taking care of all your financial needs. Give me all your information. So building that as an art, right? You need to contextualize why you're asking for everything and all the permissions that you're taking from a customer. But you also need some markers of trust. So with Weo, obviously, you guys are launching. You're backed by some of the largest known entities here in the UAE. Kareem has built a brand of trust over a decade, right? So we get some leeway there.
So Jayesh, earlier you mentioned something important, that if we don't offer a certain service, or if our quality doesn't meet the standard of the consumer or client, they will just go elsewhere. To what extent do you think that fintech today is a market that is very competitive?
So look, I think first, fintech is amazing. What fintech has done is brought customers more options, and companies that had been running for a long time that hadn't changed, they're forcing them to change, So in competition, consumers always win, I think. So I think it's phenomenal. I think, where are we? We started this phase where they said the fintechs are going to take over and the banks are going to die. That didn't happen. Now they are working together. I still think we are at the early stages of fintech. I think there's a ton of new things going to come. Fintech is doing two things. One is the pie of financial services revenue is growing because people who didn't have access to loans, things you couldn't do are now possible through a more efficient platform. And two is there's some reallocation of who has what share. I think what that ends up doing, and with some of the new technologies that are coming in, I think we're just starting. I think we're going to see some of the coolest innovations in the next 5 years, So we are super excited about this.
We started this discussion with talking about technology boom and how that changed everything for us as consumers, for governments, for corporates as well, and of course for app designers. Ahmed, when we look at what's happening globally, it's an AI boom today. It's all about blockchain technologies, AI, and it's disrupting and making huge transformations in all different sectors and industries. How are you at Kareem investing in AI, and to what extent do you think that it will add to our experience with Kareem?
Yeah, so great question. So I think every company today has a responsibility to its customers and to its people to figure out how AI works within their specific use cases, right? And so at Kareem, we're already investing quite a bit in increasing productivity for our employees through AI. So whether you look at things like Copilot, right, for our engineers as they're coding, whether you're looking at things like actually enabling customers to use ChatGPT so that they can do what they're doing, like whether it's writing a job description or, we actually use quite a bit of that, and even some of our creative studio, in-house creative studio. So there's one element which is around productivity. There's another element which is around how do you serve customers better as a result of this. And I think that's something we've been looking at quite closely in Kareem. We launched something called Ask Kareem, which is kind of your dine-out guide. So if you want to discover new places in Kareem, you're able to do that. But effectively, AI can also play a key part across all of your operations, right? So think of it whether it's matching supply and demand, right? Think of it from a pricing perspective. There's just so many use cases for AI within the company. And have we hit the home run of like, oh my God, this has just changed everything yet? I wouldn't say so at the moment.
Okay.
But does it feel like there's something at the cusp, 100%. And I think if we're not actively investing and looking at it, we're going to miss the train.
So what about AI and fintech?
So look, I think we have a ton of stuff, a lot of changes coming. One, operationally, getting more efficiency. Two, serving the customer better. And I give you an example, something we are looking at. You get a bank statement. This used to happen 50 years ago without having online banking. Now I can see all my transactions on my app, but the bank statement still is very similar. How about having a bank statement that you can talk to? How did I do this month? Hey, Jay, you spent 5,000 more on food. Next month, you've got some bills coming, so let's try to be better next month. Yeah, something that actually helps you rather than a bunch of data points. Yeah, I think some of this stuff becomes practical with AI. Yeah, where the ability for a consumer to manage their money becomes better. The one I want from Kareem is to say, hey, it's Thursday, it's biryani night. You're going to send me the best biryani without me ordering it. That's the AI I want from them. Yeah?
Wait for it.
But, but I think there's so many use cases where your life becomes easier through some of this stuff, yeah, rather than just giving customers information which is not as relevant.
I think just there is an element as well, though, of we do need to use it responsibly as well, right? So even something like this, as soon as you want to be able to give customers accurate information, right? Yeah. And there is an element where we know AI still has, and you look at conversational AI agents, there's still some issues that could come up. So I think just battle testing it really, really well becomes quite important.
So let's make some news today. Are you working on some sort of collaboration between your two companies?
We're always working on things
together.
We're always working on things together.
To what extent do you think that this sector needs collaboration between different
100%.
app organizers and app creators?
I think one thing with technology, I think this notion I will do everything myself is gone.
Yeah.
You have to work with different companies. I think companies with similar DNAs, we have a great similarity in our DNA with Kareem. There are tons of things we look at. Some things work out, some don't, yeah? But I think this is critical because the consumer is looking for this, yeah? I think companies that decide, I'm only going to do what I'm going to do, not partner with everyone else, I think they'll struggle to retain consumers.
And I think even, it also depends on where you're coming at it from, right? So when I started my first fintech in this region 5-6 years ago, right? And if you think of it as a fintech and then a bank, right? You had two issues, right? You have a bank that just does not want to work with you because they think they are able to do everything and they don't need you. And you have fintech who are like, oh, banks are horrible, like why would we work with them? There's this hubris around, we're going to change the world on our own. I think we're in a much more mature place now as an ecosystem overall, and I think there's just a realization amongst banks that fintechs can unlock a lot of value for customers, and for fintech saying, actually, it's a lot more progressive mindset right now, and we gain more by being in the same boat.
I think there is only one way, and that is forward. Everybody should just catch up, and especially with this tech boom and AI boom that we are seeing. It's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us at Abu Dhabi Finance Week, and thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.